Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wolf and Bones' Comic Club. I am Kel McDonald, the wolf of this pair, um, and my wonderful co-host,
Hey, I'm Bones. I'm
the
the
Bones.
leopard.
You're the bones of the Wolf
The
and
bones.
Bones. I thought you were going to draw yourself as a skeleton.
I originally was, and then I changed my mind afterwards.
Bones, I got news for you that you drawing yourself as a skeleton would have been appropriate for later parts of Berserk. Um,
Oh.
so
Maybe we'll change it slowly.
so the comics club, the idea for the comics club is we are going to read classic comics that one of us has not read before. We're starting with Berserk because we both wanted to read more Berserk. Um, Bones, what is your experience with Berserk before we started on this journey together?
Yeah, I hadn't read any of the comic, but I feel like I had seen bits of like if I remember seeing bits of like I don't know if there was a movie or an anime like
So
early
there's a
anime or
really
something like
early
that.
anime, and then there's several movies.
Okay, so I know I saw one of the animated things. I don't remember what,
Did
or like maybe just a bit of it.
do you know what the Berserk eclipse is?
No,
Okay, I won't spoil it. Um, uh,
I do know.
uh, so what do you know? What did you know about Berserk before we jumped into this?
Well, the only stuff I could remember about Berserk was that it was a people fighting, and then I want to say that the antagonist is very hot and pretty, um, and yeah, that was really all I really remember about it was that it was like super violent and that the bad guy was like a really pretty boy.
Okay. Um, I knew that it was super violent. But I don't think I knew that much else about it. I had not seen any of the animes. And then when the creator Kentaro Miura died, uh, the YouTuber Super Eyepatch Wolf made a video that was why you should read Berserk. And that got me interested in checking it out. Because at first I
Man,
thought it was just hyper violence all the way through.
yeah,
And Super Eye Patch Wolf makes a good argument on why there is more depth to it than that. And after looking into it, a lot of people say that you should skip the Black Swordsman arc, which is what we just read, Bones.
oh,
Um,
they just skipped that. That's
yeah,
sad.
because everyone is like, oh, the Golden Age is the good part. And in fact, the original anime skipped adapting the swordsman arc. I so like people who like Berserk, one of their complaints about every time it gets adapted as an anime, they had been
Mm-hmm.
just doing the Golden Age over and over again. So nothing after it
That
was
makes
ever getting adapted because it would always stop. And there was a more recent anime that I heard wasn't very good that did do after the Golden Age. But I haven't heard that much about it other than people weren't crazy about them. But I have read to the Golden Age, and a little bit past it, after Super Eye Patch Wolf made his video. And they're very good. And I liked it enough that I started to buy the big chunky hardcover collections, but I haven't had time to catch up. So while you're going in mostly blind, I have read the beginning. And when we get past the Golden Age, we will get to the part where we're both going in blind.
Oh, okay.
So I hope that you want to read past the Golden Age. If there's so right now, folks, our plan is that we are going to read until we either catch up or it is too violent for Bones.
Yes.
And so Bones, if you can make it through the eclipse, I believe that is the most violent part of the comic. So if I think that we will be in the clear if you can get through the eclipse. The eclipse.
Okay, there's one. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, what'd you say? There's what?
I was just gonna say there's one scene that I know about from, I want to say it was like from an AMV or something like that, like a animated music video, where it's like Guts is like trying to like cut off his own arm or something, and like that but I only know like that one little scene, and I think that's like the one scene that I'm like probably worried about.
Well, he doesn't try to cut off his own arm. We will find out how he loses his arm later.
Okay.
Or how he lost his arm, because he's got one arm in the Black Swordsman arc. He also has one eye. Also, brief aside on this topic, a few months ago, there were some chuds complaining about a roleplay game having people with disabilities and mechanics to play those people. And they're like, that's not realistic for a dark, edgy fantasy. Guts has one arm and one eye.
Yeah. What?
That was like the immediate reaction a lot of people said. Berserk, one of the darkest fantasies, is about a guy who has disabilities.
Yeah.
Anyway. So I took notes while I was reading, and I had one hell of an opening. With Guts having a good time with a lady who turns into a demon, and then he shoves his cannon arm in her mouth and blows her up.
Yeah, that part, when it started off that way, I was just like, okay, so Guts is like one of the OG monster fuckers. I get it. Like, because he knew. Like,
yeah, he knew
she was a monster.
Yes, he knew. It was a trap. They were both setting traps for each other.
Oh my.
And I think a lot about how stories open to try to get you to know exactly what you're in for. And I feel like this does a good job. Like, yeah, this is this is what you're in for Berserk. If you don't like these things, you should leave.
Yeah.
And
no, that's good, because it's like, it also, like, I think it adds to it the fact that like the first thing you ever see him kill is like not only, well, like, it's a monster, but it's also a woman that he like knew he was gonna have to kill.
Mm-hmm. And it's like, also a person who turns into a monster.
Yes.
Which is going to be a recurring theme. And then we have Guts goes to a town, and while he's walking in, there's a bunch of ladies and children in a cage being brought into the town. And also, good mood setter. Like, all these little tiny bits of like, here's a guard, here's some ladies in a cage, and then he goes into the shitty bar where they're torturing a fairy or an elf named Puck. And I like that when he shoots the guy in the head, the guy's tongue lolls out when he's dead.
Yes.
Like I like because I took screenshots. That's what I'm showing people on the stream. Of the panels that I liked. So I now have the guy's lolling out tongue on the screen. So what'd you think of that sort of tone setting vibes?
I liked it because it never, so like this story has never like said it was anything else than like a dark fantasy.
Yeah.
It like doesn't, it just like shoves you right in it,
Yeah.
and it's like, don't expect anything else from me.
And then I like when they introduce his sword, it is a panel that is as tall as possible. Because his sword is the biggest thing in the world.
Which I really liked the was it Puck being like, does that even count as a sword?
Yeah.
Because it's like so big, and I thought that was really funny. I was just like, oh my gosh.
He's the OG giant sword man. Cloud owes his sword to this guy. And I like that we see him pull out the sword, and then like the next page is like a splash page of him cutting a dude in half.
Yeah.
And I like that like the blood spatter is like showing you the motion of the sword.
The one thing I'll say that I didn't. Oh wait, I might be jumping too far ahead though.
Which you can just say. It's fine. Say it now.
It's I don't remember if it was at the end of chapter 1 or chapter 2 where Puck just like is looking at Guts and is like berserk.
Oh, I took a screenshot of that too because my note on that is, hey, that's the name of the comic.
Sure is.
But yeah, so I like the using the blood splatter to create sort of an arc to show you. And then Puck, when he's first talking to Guts, after getting rescued, I just kept thinking of. Did you ever play Ocarina of Time?
No, I actually haven't played
any Zelda
games other than the one with on the N64 with chickens, because that's the one level I played and I gave up.
That might have been Ocarina of Time, because that is on the N64. Link has a little fairy that follows him around and goes, "Hey, listen."
Yes.
And that's what I imagine Puck sounds like. Hey, listen. And then we have Guts being really mean to Puck. And says, "Don't touch me."
Yeah. Which like is I wish I had remembered to save panels, because Guts being mean to Puck like was just like, oh, Guts, stop being a punk. But I also just like, I don't know, I really like the way he draws Puck getting upset.
Yeah. Puck is there to lighten the mood.
Yeah.
And so the author didn't have a plan when he was originally making Berserk. At least this early part. But this "don't touch me" will be important later. You do find out why he does not like to be touched. And it's interesting that
he some sort of trauma.
Yes, of course, because it's Berserk.
Yes.
But so it's interesting, like rereading it since I have read a little bit ahead. All this stuff
Mhm.
that knowing that he didn't have a plan, but him making these little things like "Don't touch me" and the weird fetus monster that's in the cell. Those will be explained later and will be important.
Yeah.
Even though he didn't have a plan at first. So it's just interesting that it's like he went back and was like, okay, I can use this. I can use this. Um,
I feel like that's like any creator's almost like dream if they're like, oh gosh, I don't know what to do next, and they can like reread what they did before, and it's like, oh, I never touched on that. Let me make that an arc.
yeah. And then we find out that the ladies in the cage are not for sex, they're for eating. Um,
Yes.
I really like when we first meet the guy in charge of the town and he's eating, and you see his hands and his face and the plate, but it's like a black void.
Yes, I did. Honestly, his use of black in that scene, again, I would have taken a screenshot of that panel. I don't know if you're showing it.
I am
Um,
showing the guy cutting his meat. Uh,
yes,
uh,
it's a very good mood.
yeah, it's good mood. Um, and I didn't take a screenshot of this, but he turns into a giant snake later, and that
Yeah.
made me think of. Do you remember the evil overlord list on the internet ages and ages ago when we were in college?
No, I don't remember that at
It
all.
was a joke list that was advice for if you want to be an evil overlord, like the pitfalls, the cliches that evil overlords fall for. And
Oh, yeah.
one of the things was I will not turn into a giant snake. It never helps.
Fair, fair.
Um but good foreshadowing with the demon lady because he basically kills the snake monster with the same trap.
Yes.
Um So it's a good setup and payoff in one chapter, which is why I still think that that opening with the demon lady is a really good opening for the whole series because, yeah, we got human that turns into a demon, and we got that Guts doesn't just have a big fuck off sword; he is actually smart.
Yeah. No, I did like that because that was for some reason, and I don't remember what it was called, but there was an anime that was posted online. I want to say on like Toonami or something. It was posted next to all the like the Daft Punk anime music videos, which is how I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And it involved there's this elf named Deedlit and this like big buff guy with a sword.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like all I remember from it was that like all he was really good for was just being strong,
Mm-hmm.
and like that was it. And so I really liked having at least reading this and being like, oh, Guts actually does like
Think.
think things through and knows how to set traps. Yeah.
Um, Great hatching on his eyes when he's like pulling the thing to fire his cannon. And then we get to
Yes.
the end of the chapter where Puck says Berserk, and hey, that's the name of the comic.
So that's the part where I was just like, because is the whole thing like I don't know, spoiler, like is he like a berserker? Is that like what this is, or
No, um, I don't quite know why it is called Berserk. Other than they probably thought it sounded cool in Japan, the same way reason Bleach is called Bleach.
okay.
Um,
Yeah.
uh, but then we get chapter 2 where I didn't take as many
Hmm.
notes on chapter 2 because a lot of the stuff um, is already established in chapter 1. And but to show that Berserk is not all doom and gloom all the time, I did like the travelers that pick up Guts ask him what his big old sword is for, and ask if he's a mercenary, and he's like, "Nah, I use it for cooking."
Yeah.
It's like good joke, Guts, good joke.
Yes.
Um, but you get like something attacked him and fucked him up more so than Demon Guy. And then you find out that the weird mark on his neck attracts demons at night. And if you didn't already
Yes.
know this was a grimdark fantasy, they let you know no one is safe because Traveler's innocent daughter gets stabbed. There will be no happy endings or rescued damsels in this world.
No. Which is I had a thought later on a thing, but that's for later in the story.
Yeah, later in the story. But I feel like we get 2 splash pages of Berserk's giant ass sword taking a swing per chapter.
Yes.
I took a screenshot of him busting through the skeletons. Again, it's like the skeletons moving show the arc of the sword in a cool way. And I like that so far every time Guts has done his big sword swing, we've gotten his face blacked out.
Oh, I actually didn't notice that.
It's a good, like, he's just in it and is being all a hyper violent jerk.
Yeah.
And I also like that where we're usually doing a close up when so the girl that is killed gets possessed by demons that are attacking him, kills her dad. So both people that tried to help Guts are now dead. Lesson of this world, don't help Guts.
Yep.
And whereas usually we're closer up when he does his big sword swing, when he has to kill the girl and it's a little bit more tragic, we zoom out a lot. And I like this panel that is mostly empty except for these tiny figures of Guts swinging the sword and her torso flinging away.
I agree. I really like that because it was almost like he does, like, because he keeps telling Puck that he doesn't care. It's like, oh no, he does.
He does care. And I think Puck is really important because if Puck wasn't there, people would have been like, fuck this jerk, and left.
Yeah.
And I think that is an important element to dark fantasies that are successful. Is you have to have some of that brief glimmers of humanity, or else it's all grim all the time.
Yeah. No, that's true. Because, like, honestly, I don't know if I would be as interested in the series without Puck to balance it out. Because I like the having moments of happiness.
Yeah. And I like, because it's also, so I was talking to someone once about Game of Thrones. And there's a lot of talk about how it's grim, dark, cruel, only selfish people succeed. But where the book stopped, because George R. R. Martin's never finishing that series, the Starks are on the upswing because it's clear that Ned being honorable made enough people like him that now these people are willing to die to save his kids in his absence. So
Ooh.
it's the Lannisters do all their scheming and they successfully kill Ned and they scatter the Starks and they pull off the Red Wedding. But when the patriarch of the Lannisters dies, he was the one that everyone was afraid of and kept all their enemies in line. So as soon as he is gone, all the knives come out and the Lannister shit is getting fucked up left and right. And whereas for the Starks, where they get left off in the book series is they think Arya is captured by the enemy and is being abused. And so, like, all the surviving Northern Army is going to, like, storm this castle to save Ned's girl. That's how they refer to her. The reader knows that she's an imposter, so they're going to be disappointed when they finally pull that off. But it's the fact that, like, no one would do that for a fucking Lannister. So it's sort of...
Yeah.
Ned's kindness has is the long-term win. Whereas the Lannisters won in the short term, and are now getting fucked in the long term. And I feel like all the grim, dark fantasies that I enjoy have something like that underneath. Like, people coming together when shit gets hard.
Yeah, that's interesting because, like, you know, I've never read Game of Thrones. I'm never gonna watch the show. Anything that involves twincest, I'm just not into as a twin. Um, and but one thing I've always like other than that, like I'm just like, oh well, I don't really like things where the bad people win, and all I've ever heard about Game of Thrones is bad people winning.
I think
So that's good to know.
that's actually why he can't finish it. Is because since it all got hyped about subverting tropes, if the good people win in the end, then people will be disappointed because he didn't subvert the trope. But if all the heroes die and the White Walkers win and destroy the world, that's a real bummer, and no one's gonna want to read that ending either.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of why he can't finish the series is he doesn't know what to do. But that sort of lack of humanity is also kind of why I don't like a lot of long-term zombie apocalypse shows, because I feel like they're all everyone's selfish and awful, and the people who are nice are just too naive, like, and they get eaten by zombies because they're too kind and not willing to make tough choices. But anyway, so we have I ended this whole conversation when we're talking about an undercurrent. I have Puck's panel of saying it wasn't your fault. And Guts laughs in reply because he wants to maintain his facade that he doesn't have feelings other than rage and hate. And then we get to the big arc ending of the Black Swordsman, which is something of desire. What's the title? The Guardians of Desire.
Mhm.
And I originally told you to only read part one, and you accidentally read the whole thing. So
I did.
people who were reading wanted to read along with us. You have to read 3 volumes of Berserk to catch up, rather than just one. Um,
Sorry, guys.
uh, but next episode we'll talk about the beginning of the Golden Arc. The Golden Age. I keep calling it the Golden Arc, but the Golden Age. Um, and so Super Eye Patch Wolf talked about that a lot of the times when action is drawn in Berserk, it is just the aftermath of a strike. But I think that
Yeah.
there's that scene where the chopped off lady's head is getting crushed by the new villains, the count's hands, and you get like a slow
Yes.
motion of her eyes popping out, and I was like, no, he
Right.
can do those weird mid crushing things just as well. Cause
I mean, yeah, I feel like there's another part in this arc where he does like the very slow cut throughing of a person
yeah,
kind of thing.
yeah, but I just really like that the little slow eyeballs bulging out while the head gets crushed. 'Cause you don't see that often. And
I was curious about like when that happened with the guy slowly crushing her head. I'm like, there's still people there.
yeah,
So the townspeople are watching him do this.
yes. And it's supposed to be that's how
Um,
scared of him they are, I believe.
yeah,
That he can just do this. Because he's an unstoppable monster. And I have an image of. So there's that deformed guy that Guts runs into, and he tells Guts his
yes.
backstory of the Count eating his wife.
Hmm.
And I really like that the monster version of the Count is like toned with little white highlights, because I think if it wasn't mostly in the dark, it would look very silly.
Yeah.
And
No, that's fair.
yeah,
Because he's kind of like a giant frog in that
yeah,
scene.
he's like a giant frog, giant like slug thingy when he later on. But so yeah, so the little like white hatching, so you can't 100% make out his weird form. And he once again does the thing where there's like a black void around the villain. He really uses black in a great way.
Yeah,
What'd you think of the
agreed.
weird rock with all the facial features?
Oh yeah, that key. It reminded me of in Jujutsu Kaisen. It makes me think that Prison Cube has to be like have been influenced by this rock key
Yeah.
thing. Because that's just like immediately the second I saw it, I was like, oh, it's the prison realm thing, and I was just like, aha, like I can see an influence here, which I just found really cool. I was like, oh, that's neat that like you can actually see the influence of some other people.
Um, and I like this deformed guy getting added into the mix. Because the whole
Yeah,
time Guts is a huge asshole to him. And there's a lot of fantasy stuff that does ugly people are evil or deformed people are evil.
hmm
And so this is a guy who is clearly just like, no, we have to stop this demon count. Um,
No, I liked him too because it was also like a like I like the fact that he like when they showed he was deformed, it wasn't that he was a monster. It was literally like he was tortured there, and then like the reveal of later, like when Guts is
he has his bad
like right
dream.
before,
Yeah.
yeah, where it's like kind of like seeing like, oh, like Guts sees himself in this guy, which
Yeah.
is why he hates him so
Yeah,
much.
because he's worried that he is like this guy because he's not strong enough. They have their big fight in the guy's lab with the possessed swordsman guy. I like that Puck hides in the skull.
Yes.
That's keeping it light. Good job, Puck. I'm going to send this to you through Discord because this is a good panel. Make this our icon on various accounts.
Yes.
Um, uh, People who think Puck's annoying are wrong.
They
They're
are.
just wrong. And I like the weird slug thing coming out of the monster-fied swordsman's head.
Yeah, that that scene before that soldier got monster-fied, where it was like that leader dude
Mm-hmm.
and then like the slugs going out of his mouth, and it's like I was like, oh my gosh, is this gonna be like this like weird, like is he gonna like kiss the guy and shove it in the other guy's mouth? And it's like we never see what happens, but that's what I imagined.
Yeah. I mean, there's no reason not to. Uh, but again, he's doing it's mostly toned and there's only tiny bits of white so you can see. So it doesn't look silly. And then we have Puck and the deformed guy have a little moment and they're like, take care of yourself. So again, there is kindness in this fucked up world. And that is definitely a part of why it stands out compared to other dark fantasies.
Yeah.
And then we have Guts says ambition comes with a price. Of course, that price comes too high if you die for nothing. And hey, that's an important theme. That's Bones, get ready for the price of ambition to be brought up again and again.
Okay. I was honestly wondering about that of like, oh, like how much of this is um going to be uh I guess yeah, like of how much of it is going to be being brought up again kind of thing.
um, so him not liking to be touched, um, ambition, that weird fetus monster that keeps chasing Guts.
Yes.
So those are all going to come up. And obviously during the big confrontation at the end, that's very important.
Yeah.
But after that, the deformed guy is captured and he's going to be beheaded. And then we have a little bit of humor where Puck tries to save the day and just pings on
Yeah.
the headsman's axe. And I like Guts' face where he's like, stupid.
I mean, but Puck tried.
And
He really did, or they really did.
yeah, Puck really putting Guts to shame, not being braver.
100%.
Um,
Though I did like that like Guts did explain like, hey, like that's obviously a trap. And it's like, yeah,
yeah.
it is a trap, obviously. But
And then
maybe you should still do something about it.
Puck calls him out on the fact that like, hey, do you think you're like that old man?
Yeah.
And Guts is like, shut up.
And it's like, good for yeah. Yeah, I love Puck. Like, really does add more than I originally thought they would whenever they showed up. Because I was like, okay, we have like an elf thing, and then it was like, oh, this elf thing is tiny. It's a fairy.
Yeah.
Because at first you couldn't tell the size because of the you'd already seen this huge sword.
Yeah.
So when they're throwing the knives, I was thinking it was another huge sword, and it's like, oh no,
He's a little
it's
guy.
actually yeah.
Um so yeah, I just love that whole little like Puck dramatically flying into the headsman. And then Puck is
Yeah.
given as a present to the Count's daughter, and they have a conversation about being caged. And man, some damn good comics. A lot
Hmm.
of the framing of the Count's daughter is isolating her from everything else. I have up on the screen the part right after Puck left where and Puck is like, we'll help you get out. And she goes to go outside, and it's like an archway of black is surrounding her. So she is trapped by the
Yes.
darkness. What'd you think of that scene where he talks to his daughter, the Count?
I was uh it was one of those things where I'm just like, okay, well, she's obviously scared of her dad,
Yeah.
but it didn't seem like she knew why she was scared of her dad, because even when she was explaining it, she was just like, he's changed,
He's different
but
now.
like she didn't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I mean, very isolated. I felt like, uh, honestly, I don't know if this is it spoilery, if I say I really thought she was gonna die.
I did too. Because we get set up with the previous girl that
Yeah.
that we're not gonna save any damsels. And sure seems like she's gonna be doomed. And then we have when Guts storms the castle, like the little guards being like, we should just take off, and then they're like immediately killed by Guts.
Yeah. I did. I did like that, and then like the fight. Like, okay, so what? That like priest that's obviously terrified of the Lord of the Castle. I'm like, if you're terrified of this man, and this huge monster of a person comes in and is destroying people, why would you think that you could stop? Like, why would you try to stop them? Like, why instead, like, don't just open the door, be like, here, have at it. I'm scared of this
I think
guy.
he
Y'all
is
fight
so
him.
scared that he doesn't even think that this monster, like he is betting on the wrong horse. Basically, he is
Mm,
so scared
yeah.
of the Lord that he thinks Guts doesn't stand a chance.
Okay.
Because no one has stood a chance against him. And then we get another cool, like, great use of lighting, monster face for the the Count again. I'm sending you the one I'm looking at.
Hmm.
Just amazing use of lighting. Just
Yes.
I like that he has like so many teeth and multiple mouths. Great. Um,
Yeah, honestly, there was a lot of this that, like, because, like, even, like, the scene that you're sitting at, like, not the lighting and stuff, but just, like, the way the monster looks when it's, like, smiling.
yeah.
It was one of those moments. And, like, I feel like this is going to be the second time I bring up Jujutsu Kaisen, but it was another moment of me being like, oh, I can kind of see the influence in the monsters kind of
Yeah.
thing.
This is very influential. So,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, and then his daughter sees him as a big weird slug thing. So the jig is up.
Yeah,
Um,
I did. I did like that reveal of, because honestly, I was just like, oh, it, like, this guy's a monster. He's terrible. He's killing all these innocent people and whatnot. But one, the reveal, like his daughter telling the story of, oh, his wife, like her mom was killed by these evil demons, so he just like went too far and is like killing all these people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, that changes later, but like the fact that he like never wanted his daughter to see him like that, I was just like, okay. So like even when you get to this form of like a devil, you can still have a little bit of a heart too, which I also liked.
Um, and then to talk about great inking, um, when Guts is stabbing him over and over again, and it changes from like the fine, detailed toning and rendering to like
Mm-hmm.
looser, wilder brushstrokes. Um, I'm sharing with you the two panels that I have. 'Cause they're just like showing off Guts's mania
Yes.
and rage and like just big chunkier brushstrokes instead of the usual like finer rendering stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah. No, seriously, like for this, like I was this the creator's first like comic to get, I guess, get published,
I think
or
so. I would have to look that up. If you got Google in front of you, you can look it up.
oh yeah, I will look it up. But yeah, I was just like, yeah, his inking. So I was like, where like sometimes the art or like the anatomy, I'm like, but then like but his like inking skills alone, I'm like, no, this is actually really good.
yeah, this slaps. It's also interesting. Like, we've it's been obvious in a little bit of the monster design, but when
Mm.
the Behelit, or however you say it, finally like makes a face and opens up the world where the God Hand live, it's he really likes surrealist art. And you can tell that with the MC Escher stair world that the God Hand live in. Um,
And that's what. So honestly, so going to that, it made me wonder whether this like the surrealist like world for the God Hand inspired the new other comic that's really popular now, Demon Slayer, because like that's where the final boss is against the final fight is against the Demon Lord, is in this weird world that's very much like this kind of thing, and I'm like,
you're
interesting.
learning about where all of the popular shit stole their dots from.
Yeah,
And
it's pretty nice.
but also, Super Eye Patch Wolf brought this up that there's a painting of hell that's like kind of surrealist that is very clearly an influence in the monster design. So it's very clear that like Miyamura was looking at surrealist art, not just for this MC Escher looking world, but also his weird slug creature or demon and the other monsters that have shown up. And what did you think of the God Hand when they showed up?
Well, I immediately recognized the one of them because it's like, oh, it's the pretty boy, which I hadn't realized he was part of like this group.
Yeah.
Um, and but yeah, what I had been curious because the first time you see them, they're in the shadow, and there was one where it was just like this like floating blob, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, is that a floating head? Is it a like a what does this thing look like? So honestly, whenever they showed up and you could actually see them, the first thing I did was like try to find the floating guy and be like, okay, what do you look like?
And he's mostly head, but he does have a body.
Yeah,
Um, he's he's kind of Modak from Marvel.
yeah.
And we also got BDSM lady and Mars Attacks looking
Hmm.
motherfucker.
Yes.
And then we have Griffith in his um, Phantom of Paradise armor.
What is that? Oh, is that what the armor's called? Because I was
No,
just like,
no, that is
he
not
sounds
what it
just
is
like a
called.
superhero.
Phantom of Paradise
Okay.
is a movie where I'm going to pull it up on the stream in case anyone else doesn't know. That the hero of Phantom of Paradise um
Oh.
uh
Okay. Yep.
he's got his Phantom of Paradise ass looking ass armor. Um
Sure
here you go,
does.
Bones. It's actually probably reference to Gatchaman, the people that the superheroes that are like bird themed.
I do like if you Google Phantom of Paradise, it's like, oh, here, it's like the first thing that comes up is r/Berserk.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, we have Pretty Boy Griffith telling Guts, "You're beneath me," and Guts not taking that well.
No. It then just makes me want to know more about their story because I like, and like we got the flashback of them when they were younger, so I'm just like, okay, so like they've obviously known each other for a while,
Well,
but for some reason, oh god,
no. Finish your thought.
for some reason, just like thinking about the series, I had, I guess, assumed, um, that like I don't know. Are we going to get like a flashback arc of their story, or is it like for some reason I thought like they really only knew each other when they were older?
Good news,
But
Bones.
well,
That's the entirety of
what's
the
up?
Golden Age is Griffith and Guts
Uh-huh.
being friends slash maybe more question mark. Um and then we have while we have the whole thing where the Count is told by the God Hand he has to sacrifice something to get his demon powers, and
Yes.
you learn that he sacrificed his wife to get his current demon powers. And they do make the
Yeah.
point that he's at first like, hey, well, then kill this swordsman Guts. And it's like, well, you don't care about him, so that's not a sacrifice. And that he has to sacrifice his daughter. And I like that we have those build-ups of he clearly cares about his daughter, even though he's a big monster.
Mm-hmm.
So he can't sacrifice her.
Yeah. No,
Uh,
I really like how they handled that because you're kind of like, oh, like is he gonna do it? Because he really doesn't want to die.
yeah.
Um, but then he doesn't, and it's like, oh, okay, cool.
So, the fact that that brand marks someone as a sacrifice and you have to sacrifice someone you care about to get your godlike powers. Bones, can you guess what happened between Guts and Griffith with those tiny bits of knowledge?
I mean, I'm starting to think something here. I'm thinking maybe Guts was originally Griffin's sacrifice. Griffith's sacrifice.
Yeah, yeah.
But then like how is Guts still alive? And so
Because he's got
I
that
guess
big
we're gonna
ass
learn that.
giant sword. He's just that badass, Bones.
Okay, okay.
He fights off demons every night.
Yeah, like that's true.
But yeah, I like the reveal that it was actually he killed his wife. It wasn't pagans. That's just what he told everyone. To cover his own ass.
Yeah.
And then we get after he can't sacrifice his daughter. and he gets sucked into hell after everything's like done. The girl is like, I never should have left my room.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kill myself. And then Guts is basically like, yeah, kill yourself. Do it. And we get sort
And
of,
like, yeah, and like at first you think he's kind of like being mean about it, and then it's like, oh, but like I guess like that's where it's like Putt comes in and is like, oh wait, no, he actually means this.
yeah, he's like not being saying it to be a jerk. He's like, you have to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And that also goes back to when he was talking to the previous damsel in distress. She was upset about a loved one dying in a mercenary band. And was like, it was so stupid that he signed up for this war. And Guts was like, well, maybe he died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
You don't know. And
it's like, all right, Guts, are you gonna be a jerk? Or are you gonna be a
yeah,
good guy?
but then after we get like the damsel in distress being all like, I'll fucking kill you, and Puck, at first you think Guts is just doing his badass like, I'll be waiting, like walk away manly thing, but then you get the reveal that
Yes.
he's sad.
Yes, that's it. Do you have that
Yes,
panel
I
up?
do. That's what's up on screen now. He's sad.
Yeah, because that's what, like, whenever I saw that panel, it made me, it like made me laugh, but then it also was just like, aw, Guts.
Because he's only been running on hate till then. So it's like
Yeah.
seeing someone be betrayed by someone who loved them, or like the girl seeing the depths of evil in her father's heart and being so
Uh-huh.
surprised by that. That is what gets to Guts, not all the bloodshed and horrible stuff that has happened so far.
Oh, see, so it's like, because I kind of took it as he was like sad that like this innocent person like instead turned her hatred towards him.
See, I didn't read that because he hasn't cared about anyone else hating him before this.
Yeah.
And he also has not cared about the corruption of innocence at all before this. And so I think it is more her betrayal reflecting his own betrayal. Much like
Okay.
he hates the disfigured guy more so than anyone else he's talked to, because him.
Yeah. Is him. Okay, okay.
So that's the
Yeah, because I read it. That's why I was like, oh, he does care how people feel about him, but no, I think yours probably makes way more sense.
I also have foreknowledge.
Yeah.
So that's the Black Swordsman arc. What'd you think overall?
I was really impressed with it. I'm honestly kind of sad that people say to skip it
Yeah.
because I thought it was a really great introduction to the story, to like dark fantasy in general. Yeah.
So,
No.
because people are always like, "Oh, the golden age is when it gets good."
Yeah.
And it is, I think, also the things that people have as a mistake. The reason why it is better to start with the Black Swordsman arc rather than the Golden Age is um, every happy moment in the Golden Age is doomed. And you see all these
Yeah,
happy
and you know
moments
that.
knowing that this is where it's going to end. And then and so it makes them more poignant than if you were just going into the Golden Age blind. The other thing, small spoiler, the Golden Age does not have demons until halfway through. And
Oh,
so
okay.
to go back to the way you start stories to get someone on board with what's coming up. If you went with the beginning of Golden Age, while it is brutal, I feel like some people would be upset / frustrated when demons start to show up.
Yeah.
Because have you read any of Vinland Saga?
No, I haven't. So I bought the first book.
So Vinland Saga is a historical fantasy. I mean, is historical fiction that's also pretty dark and violent.
Yeah.
But it's grounded in reality as much as any historical anime is. So I could see someone, if they skipped the Black Swordsman arc, expecting something closer to Vinland Saga, and then be like, what the fuck are
Oh.
all these demons doing here when they finally show up? So,
What are all these demons doing in my dark fantasy?
well, no, that's what I'm saying. They would, in my dark historical fiction. So there's no magic, no,
Yeah.
yeah. So, because Vinland Saga has nothing beyond the realm of reality other than anime fights. So,
Okay.
so yeah, so I think it's important for something like Berserk to start with, here's a demon lady that he's fucking and then blows up. Because it lets you know there are demons and there will be demons later.
Yes.
So even when we take a break from demons, they will be back.
And demons can disguise themselves as people. It introduces so much to it that it's like, no,
Yeah.
this is important.
And to bring it back to Game of Thrones again, that is why I think it is very good that Game of Thrones, which similarly takes a while to get to magic. Game of Thrones starts with a prologue, which is people running into ice zombies and all getting killed. So you know the ice zombies are out there, and everyone just doesn't know it yet.
Okay.
So again, when they do actually show up and interact with the main characters, you as the reader are not surprised / disappointed. And I think that is something that people don't always think about when they start a story, is how the opening sets someone's expectations.
No, that's true, because I have been disappointed by stories before where it'll be like
suddenly changes gears into something completely different.
right, so there's this manhwa I was reading, and Lord helps me, I don't remember the name, but it's like I'll be the queen in this life or something, and it's like, and it starts off. It's probably one of the darker ones that I was enjoying because it's pretty much like a revenge fantasy of like this woman was like horribly betrayed in her past life. She gets reborn, and so she's going to use it to destroy everybody who is horrible to her. And like really like the first, I want to say, like part of the comic, you're like, yeah, she's getting revenge, she's doing all this scheming, this is really great. And then suddenly it just like changes tracks and is like, oh, now we're going to talk about like romance and love, and she's not scheming right now. And I'm like, what is happening? This isn't what I wanted to read. I wanted to read the scheming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about other stuff that has a really good like beginning, like this is the show or this is the book, this is the comic. The beginning of
Mm.
Buffy does a very good job of establishing what Buffy is. Because the first scene of the first episode of Buffy is two teens sneak into the school late at night. And one's a girl who's like, "Oh, we shouldn't be doing this," and like, "Do you think we'll get in trouble?" And the guy is like, "Don't worry, like, I got a surprise for you." And it's building up, and they like hear something and are startled, and you know, it is setting you up to think the blonde girl is gonna get killed horribly.
Yes.
And the guy says, "Don't worry, we're all alone." And then she turns her face, she has a vampire face, and goes, "Good," and then eats him. And it's like, so it's setting up that it's going to be some teen nonsense and that it's going to subvert traditional horror tropes. And also that vampires are in it, and it's about high school.
Yeah.
So yeah, I do think the Black Swordsman arc is necessary to set someone with the correct expectations for what Berserk is.
Yeah. I just like I don't like why do people like is it just that they like the golden arc more so they're just like, "Oh, go ahead and skip it?"
Yeah, basically.
Okay.
That's when people are like, that's when it gets good. And yeah, I think while the golden arc is better, I think you need the Black Swordsman.
Well, yeah, because then you don't know that there's like this like because if it's about their past, you don't know the stuff like you were saying earlier.
Yeah.
You're not getting
I think
the full
the
feeling
first
that,
anime did skip the Black Swordsman arc.
Oh.
And that might also be part of it because people are like, well, I liked the anime and the anime works just fine. Like, but yeah, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
Next episode, we are going to talk about the first 6 chapters in the Golden Age. So,
Yes.
Bones, that is the last chapter of Volume 3 and all of Volume 4.
Okay. I will not read ahead.
Do you want to do this weekly, or bi-weekly or monthly?
I mean, I would be down for trying for weekly, and then if it gets too much, like maybe going to bi-weekly.
Okay. Because when you told me that you read that far ahead, I was like, oh, no wonder you didn't want to do it weekly. Like, that's too much, Bones.
Yeah, when you were like, oh, like we were only supposed to read this much, and I was like, yeah.
Anyway, the next episode, what should we title this first episode when I put it on YouTube?
Oh, the black sword is good, actually.
Black Swordsman arc's good, actually. Because I know what I'm going to call the second episode.
Oh, what's that?
He was born in a pile of corpses.
Oh. Okay, so that's where that comes from. Okay,
yeah. Spike once was like, oh, so does it get good because it stops being edgelordy? And I was like, no, the Golden Age starts with, he was born in a pile of corpses. That's kind of a spoiler, but it's in the first, 5 pages of the Golden Age, so,
I mean, I feel like is because okay, so I did look up if he had done other manga, and it looks like he had done like some short series, but this was his first like
Long running
big
thing.
hit and big running series.
Yeah.
Yeah, which he started in like '88. So I'm just like, did he create like the edge lord trope?
No, because he was there's definitely edgelord stuff before 88. I mean, Phantom of Paradise came out in the 70s.
Oh, that's true.
And he's very influenced by Fist of the North Star.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to say The Black Swordsman is good, actually.
Yes.
Episode 1. Or, what if I called it The Sword is for Cooking?
That's also good.
All right, I'm going to call it The Sword is for Cooking.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone, for watching. I'm going to hit stop
Yeah,
on the
thank you.
record. Very quick. Bones, where can people find your stuff?
Oh, bonesleopard.com.
And you can read my comics at kelmcdonald.com. And you all have a good one.
Bye.
Okay.